Welcome back to Beneath the Surface, where we delve into the most chilling, perplexing, and shocking true crime stories. Today, we're diving into a mystery that has haunted a small town for years: the disappearance of 17-year-old Max Jennings, a bright high school student with a promising future, stunned everyone when he vanished without a trace. Was he kidnapped, lost in an accident, or is there something even darker at play? This case has more twists and turns than anyone could have imagined, and today we're uncovering the truth behind his disappearance. Stick with us as we explore the haunting details and reveal whether this chilling case was ever solved. Trust me, you won't want to miss what we've uncovered, but before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the dark side of crime. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a story. Now let's uncover the truth about Max Jennings. Chapter 1. The Disappearance of Max Jennings. The sun had just dipped behind the horizon, casting a warm orange glow across Ellsworth Heights, a small town nestled in the countryside where everyone knew everyone, and secrets were seldom kept for long. For Max Jennings, 17, this was the calm before a storm that would change everything. He was known around town for his quiet nature, his talent with the guitar, and his ability to disappear into his music when things got tough. On the surface, everything appeared normal as he walked out of the house at around 7:30 p.m., casually telling his mother, Lisa, that he was meeting up with friends at the park. Max had always been the kind of kid who preferred solitude, but that evening, he seemed eager to connect with the friends he'd known since childhood. Little did Lisa know that her son, the boy she had raised with so much care, would never return home. The hours passed, and by 11 p.m., concern began to set in. Max's phone, once a constant source of communication, went unanswered. His friends hadn't seen him. His usual route was empty, and the park where he promised to meet others was eerily still. The quiet town that once felt like a safe haven for the Jennings family had become a backdrop for an unspeakable horror. Lisa's heart raced as the minutes turned into hours. Her stomach churned with every passing second. The sound of sirens broke the silence as local authorities were called in, but deep down, she knew something was terribly wrong. Max had vanished, leaving nothing behind but questions. Chapter 2. The investigation begins. Detective Rachel Adams stood in the quiet living room of the Jennings home, scanning the faces of Max's distraught parents. She was no stranger to missing person cases, but this one felt different. Lisa, sitting rigidly on the couch, tried to keep her composure, but the fear in her eyes was palpable. David, her husband, was pacing back and forth, his hands nervously wringing together as he muttered to himself. The house, usually filled with warmth and laughter, now felt cold and empty. Rachel carefully asked Max's parents about their son's usual habits, anything unusual that might explain his disappearance. They described him as a good kid, a loner at times, but not the type to run away. No, Max wouldn't do that, they insisted. He was a gentle soul, too grounded to make such a rash decision. Rachel's mind raced as she gathered the details. Max had been messaging his friends earlier in the evening but had never arrived at the park. A single text was all they had. "Meet me by the old bridge at 9 p.m. No one can know." The old bridge. That was a place Max often went when he wanted to be alone. But why would he need to keep his meeting a secret? And who had he been meeting? These questions seemed innocuous at first, but Rachel knew they held the key to unlocking Max's whereabouts. There was something deeply unsettling about the secrecy in that message. Chapter 3. The Search and the Breakthrough. The town mobilized quickly. Volunteers spread out across the woods, the parks, and the creek beds that snaked around the outskirts of Ellsworth Heights. The first few days passed with no leads, and the desperation in Lisa's eyes grew. The familiar, small-town streets they'd known their whole lives had turned into a labyrinth of unknowns. Every creak of a floorboard, every rustle in the bushes was a possibility. But hope began to dwindle. Then, on the 7th day of the search, a breakthrough came. A hiker, a middle-aged man named Thomas, had been walking along the banks of a creek when he noticed something unusual. Half hidden among the brush was a small, worn backpack. Inside were Max's belongings, his wallet, a notebook, some papers, nothing that immediately pointed to a clear motive. But then Thomas noticed something else. A folded piece of paper, the edges frayed from being stuffed hastily inside. Rachel's pulse quickened as she unfolded the note. It was short but chilling. Scrawled in Max's handwriting were the words, "They're coming for you. Trust no one." Rachel felt a cold shiver run down her spine. These words weren't the typical ramblings of a teenager. They were a warning. But from who? And why had Max felt the need to write it down? The note opened up new possibilities. Had Max been threatened before he disappeared? Or was there something darker at play? With no time to waste, Rachel knew she had to follow the only lead they had left, the mysterious note and its cryptic message. Chapter 4. Suspicions. Arise. Rachel's investigation into Max's life began to reveal a side of him few knew about. His ex-girlfriend, Ella, became an early person of interest. Rachel discovered that Max had been texting her the night he disappeared, but Ella had no clear alibi. The two had broken up months ago, but Ella's behavior suggested something deeper. She was reluctant to answer questions, her face twisting in discomfort whenever Rachel mentioned Max's name. Ella eventualmente admitió que había visto a Max en el parque, pero solo desde una distancia. She claimed they didn't speak. Max had been walking away from her when she last saw him. But something about her story didn't add up. Max had told her he was meeting his friends at the park. Why would he have lied to her? Why hadn't she mentioned seeing him sooner? Was she hiding something? As Rachel delved into Ella's life, she discovered messages on Max's phone, texts that were full of longing, regret, and confusion. Max had been struggling with his feelings for her, still pining for their relationship. Was Ella hiding a deeper connection to Max's disappearance? Or had she just been in the wrong place at the wrong time? Ella had a secret, and Rachel was determined to find it. Chapter 5. The Dark Web Connection. The deeper Rachel dug, the darker the mystery became. Max's online activity had raised red flags. It appeared that, unbeknownst to his family and friends, Max had been actively involved in a series of underground forums. These weren't your typical gaming or music discussion boards. These were places where users spoke in riddles, shared illegal information, and made cryptic exchanges. What began as a hobby quickly spiraled into something far more dangerous. In the weeks leading up to his disappearance, Max had been messaging a person known only as the Broker. Their conversations had started with music tips, but over time, the tone of the exchanges became increasingly sinister. The Broker had invited Max to join a hidden community of people involved in more dangerous activities, and Max had taken the bait. He'd become involved in the dangerous world of the dark web, a world far from the innocent teenager his friends had known. Rachel knew she had uncovered something pivotal, but she had to act fast. Was the Broker responsible for Max's disappearance? Or had Max gotten too deep into this world and paid the price for it? The unsettling truth began to reveal itself. Max had been pulled into something much larger than he could have ever imagined. And now, he was paying the price. Chapter 6. The Shocking. Reveal, Rachel's search for answers took another disturbing turn when an anonymous email arrived. The subject line read, "You're too late." The email contained a chilling video. Max, blindfolded and tied to a chair, with a trembling voice. His words were rushed, almost panicked as he whispered, "I didn't do it. Please, they're forcing me. I didn't kill anyone." The video cut abruptly and the room went silent. Rachel's stomach dropped. This wasn't just a disappearance, it was a kidnapping. Max had been taken, tortured, and manipulated. The message was clear. Max had become a pawn in a game that was far beyond him. Who was holding him captive? Who was behind this? The video didn't answer those questions, but it deepened the mystery. Now, Rachel had to find Max before it was too late. The pressure was mounting, and the search had become a race against time. Chapter 7. The Red Herring. A new suspect emerged. Harold Turner, a local man with a history of making attention-grabbing statements, came forward claiming he had seen Max being forcibly shoved into a van by two men outside a convenience store. Harold's account was detailed, but something didn't sit right with Rachel. His history of making false claims raised suspicion. Despite his inconsistencies, Rachel couldn't ignore Harold's story completely. She enlisted the help of her team to check out the area where Harold claimed to have seen the van, but they found nothing. The search turned up more questions than answers, and Rachel was forced to return to Max's inner circle. Chapter 8. The Family Secret. Rachel had been investigating the case for weeks, and while she had made significant progress, there was something still bothering her. Max's family, particularly his father David, kept slipping under her radar. While David's alibi checked out, something in his demeanor didn't sit right with Rachel. He seemed too calm, almost detached for a father whose son was missing. The grief in his eyes didn't match the weight of the situation, and Rachel began to wonder if there was more to the story than anyone was telling. One evening, as Rachel sat with Lisa reviewing Max's case file, the truth began to surface. Lisa's voice cracked when she mentioned Max's father's past, a past that Max had only recently discovered. "David, he wasn't always the man I married," Lisa confessed, her eyes glassy as she stared out the window, as if watching the memories float by. "Max. He found out about the affair, and it broke him. He felt so lost after that. That's when things started changing." Rachel leaned in closer, sensing the weight of the revelation. Max had found out about his father's infidelity, and it had been devastating for him. The emotional fallout from David's betrayal had shattered the family's sense of unity. Max, who had always been reserved, had begun to withdraw into himself. The distance between father and son grew, and Max's retreat into solitude only deepened. Rachel pieced it together. Max had been struggling with the weight of his father's secret, not just because of the affair itself, but because of the way David had hidden it. The emotional toll was evident. Max had tried to cope by seeking answers online, by finding a space where the truth didn't hurt so much. But in doing so, he had stumbled into a world of manipulation that would nearly cost him his life. As Rachel reflected on this new information, she couldn't help but think that the secrets within the Jennings family had played a crucial role in Max's disappearance. Had he been looking for a way out, a way to escape the toxic relationship between his parents? Or had he been inadvertently pulled into something darker by the emotional void left by his father's betrayal? Chapter 9. A Sinister Plot Unfolds. The deeper Rachel dug, the darker the truth became. She had always suspected that Max's disappearance wasn't just a random incident, but now the pieces were starting to fall into place. Max wasn't just a victim of a dangerous online community. He had unwittingly become part of a criminal operation much larger than himself. The broker, the enigmatic figure who had been pulling the strings behind the scenes, had orchestrated the entire plot. Max's naivety had been his downfall. The broker had preyed on his vulnerabilities, his emotional struggles, his search for identity, and his desire for escape. It was clear now that Max had been a pawn in a larger game, a game played by people with ruthless intentions. The broker, whose real identity remained a mystery, had been using Max to cover up a crime so deep and well hidden that it took Rachel weeks to uncover. Rachel couldn't believe what she was discovering. Max's online involvement, the cryptic messages, the twisted conversations, it all pointed to one terrifying conclusion. Max had been caught in the crossfire of a dangerous criminal syndicate, a web of corruption, hacking, and manipulation that spanned across the country. The broker had used Max as leverage, threatening him with his secrets and forcing him to comply with their demands. The frightening thing was, Max hadn't even realized how deep he had been dragged into this underworld until it was far too late. The more Rachel uncovered, the more the investigation began to feel like a race against time. Each step forward was a step closer to uncovering the truth, but each revelation also brought Rachel closer to the dark heart of the conspiracy. The more she learned about the broker and the illegal activities he had been involved in, the more dangerous it became. She wasn't just investigating a missing person anymore. She was investigating an entire network of criminals willing to do whatever it took to protect their secrets. Max had been manipulated, coerced, and used to further a hidden agenda. And now, Rachel had to find a way to bring the people behind this operation to justice before Max became just another casualty of their twisted game. Chapter 10. The final twist and the truth unveiled. It had been weeks since Max's disappearance, and the investigation was at a boiling point. Rachel knew she was close, but every move she made seemed to push her further into danger. Every lead, every clue, led her into deeper, more treacherous waters. Max's situation had become more than just a case. It was now a personal mission. The truth had to be uncovered, no matter the cost. Then the phone rang. It was an anonymous tip. The voice on the other end was muffled, its owner speaking in hushed tones. "Max is alive," the voice whispered. "I know where he is. He's at the cabin. The broker won't let him go." Rachel's heart pounded as the weight of the words settled in. She had been following this trail for weeks, but now it was finally coming to an end. Max was alive, and he was being held somewhere, trapped in the clutches of the broker and his criminal network. Rachel's team moved swiftly, coordinating with local authorities. As they descended on the remote cabin deep in the woods, Rachel's mind raced. What would she find when they arrived? Would Max be there? And would they be in time to save him? The cabin was hidden, nestled in the forest, isolated from the nearest town. As Rachel approached, she could see the flicker of light through the cracks in the walls. She motioned for her team to move in, and together they breached the door. What they found inside was both a relief and a horror. Max, barely recognizable, was shackled to a chair in the center of the room. His eyes were hollow, his body bruised and weak, but he was alive. His hands trembled as he slowly looked up, meeting Rachel's gaze. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air was thick with the tension of everything that had led to this moment. Max was freed, his captors nowhere to be found. But as Rachel listened to him recount his ordeal, the full scale of the conspiracy became clear. Max had been forced to act as a pawn in a larger game of criminal exploitation, and the broker had been manipulating him from behind the scenes the entire time. He had been threatened, coerced, and made to believe that his life and his family's safety depended on him following the instructions given by his captors. As Max's story unfolded, Rachel pieced together the final details. The broker had orchestrated everything, using Max as leverage to cover up a series of illegal activities ranging from identity theft to corporate espionage. Max had been a pawn in a much larger scheme, one that spanned multiple states and involved people with far-reaching power. The truth had finally been uncovered, but it came with a price. Max was free, but the psychological toll of his ordeal would linger. For his family, the healing process would be long and uncertain. They had gotten their son back, but the damage done, by both those who manipulated him and by the secrets that had festered within their own home, was something they would all have to confront. Max's survival was nothing short of miraculous, but the journey to reclaim his life would be filled with long, painful days of healing. His story, though tragic, held vital lessons that should never be ignored. The world Max had been pulled into was a world of shadows, where trust was a commodity that could be bought, sold, and manipulated. His tragedy was not just a story of a missing teen. It was a cautionary tale about the dangers of digital manipulation, the unseen perils of online networks, and the consequences of hidden family secrets. For Max's family, The journey back to normalcy would be slow. They had to rebuild their trust in one another, acknowledging the wounds that had been inflicted long before Max had ever disappeared. The secrets that had kept them apart, David's affair, the emotional distance between them, had created the cracks in Max's life that made him vulnerable to manipulation. But Max's journey was also a testament to resilience. He had survived the worst, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And though the road to healing was long, Max would ultimately find his strength. He would never be the same, but he was alive, and that, in the end, was all that mattered. Thank you for joining us in uncovering the chilling truth behind the disappearance of Max Jennings. His story is a powerful reminder of the dangers that lie hidden beneath the surface of our seemingly ordinary lives. Max's journey from victim to survivor is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, but also a stark warning about the unseen dangers lurking in the shadows of our digital world. As we bring this case to a close, we hope it leaves you thinking about the fragility of trust, the impact of secrets, and the lengths some people will go to in order to manipulate others. But most importantly, we hope it reminds you that no matter how dark the world may seem, there is always a way back into the light. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more gripping, true crime stories. Click the bell icon so you never miss another deep dive into the dark side of crime. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay safe, and remember, the truth is often stranger than fiction.